Hi, everyone. Welcome to Leisrealtalk. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. It's great to be back. I was away. I wasn't away, but I took a week off to relax and also try to focus on some administrative work. And somebody suggested that I take 2 weeks off. That would be nice, but I don't have the luxury of taking 2 weeks off. I need to come back to work. But I wore this shirt just to remind myself that I'd like to relax a little bit. All right, let's get started. It was very difficult for me to decide the thumbnail for tonight because we're going to cover so many points, right? So many different aspects of CCP politics, from international relations, from Sino-India relations to Sino-US relations, to CCP politics, to an update on the rumor about the nuclear submarine that had an accident. And then we'll talk about Xi Jinping's presence on social media in the United States, and also his daughter's role in that. But all of that point to the answers to one question, which is why is Xi Jinping not attending G20 in India? So even though the topic tonight is why Xi Jinping is not attending G20, but I think the discussion is really a comprehensive one that covers all different aspects of geopolitics involving China. All right, so I had a listed 5 agenda items. I'll try to follow that. Stay until the end. I think you will enjoy some of the pictures that I have found and that I will share with you. So let's first talk about why Xi Jinping is not attending the G20 in India this coming weekend. Well, when Xi Jinping attends summits, he usually requests the hosting country to arrange a state visit simultaneously. And this grand welcoming ceremony in the name of a state visit shows that the Chinese leader is treated with a higher level of courtesy than the other participating heads of state. So, for example, last November, when he attended the G20 in Indonesia and also the APEC summit in Thailand, he walked down red carpets, inspected the military, and received the welcoming ceremony of a state visit. And by both of these two southeastern countries. That was last November. And last month, when he attended the BRICS summit in South Africa, the hosting country also gave him the courtesy of a state visit. But India this time didn't agree to offer him a state visit when he attends the G20. And you can tell this by Xinhua's news report. It didn't mention a state visit. I think Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, am I pronouncing his name right? He will receive the heads of state from 20 countries, but has no intention of adding a formal ceremony to welcome Xi Jinping. At the BRICS summit in South Africa 2 weeks ago, right? Modi and Xi Jinping did not have any meetings. And given the recent Chinese map controversy, I think Modi has no incentive to give him the extra warm welcome. So Xi Jinping decided to send his premier Li Qiang instead. But this is only the reason on the surface. So this is only a very superficial reason. Let's talk about the next agenda item, right? The real reason. So what are the real reasons? Well, the reason is Xi Jinping has too many political enemies, and they're involved in a concerted effort and to oppose him, and that spells danger. I think we won't see Xi Jinping making a lot of international trips from this point on, because of his concern of this political instability and the ensuing danger. When he went to Xi'an for the Central Asia Summit in May, he brought a troop of 15,000 to maintain security, and every building along the road that his car passed by, and local official is assigned to every building that he passed, and a policeman is assigned to every apartment or housing unit in the building along the way. And for the South African BRICS summit, he was said to have brought 300 security personnel with him to South Africa last month, and he skipped an important speech at the business forum due to security concerns. Various reports say that he's mentally tormented about his safety. I discussed his mental state in my live stream on August, I believe it was 27th. It was last Saturday. It was August the 27th, and I won't elaborate it here. You can check out that program. All of the security measures are to protect him from internal enemies, not external ones. He doesn't fear the Taiwanese or the Americans. The man who has been his number one enemy, who has been the mastermind of the Jiang Zemin faction for years, is no other than retired CCP leader Zheng Qinghong. And this faction has been engaged in a life and death struggle with Xi Jinping from the very beginning of his leadership, his career as the head of the CCP. Today, Nikkei Asia's former China bureau chief had a, hold on, let me share with you. I do have a picture of that. Here we go. Wrote an analysis about Xi Jinping being reprimanded by party elders spearheaded by Zheng Qinghong at the Beidaihe summer retreat. And Nikkei Asia's sources said that at this year's gathering, a group of retired party elders got together in the suburbs of Beijing before the summer meetings at the beach to collect their thoughts and to come up with consensus. From the way they describe it, the meeting must have been a secret one without Xi Jinping being aware. They then sent a few representatives to Beidaihe to convey their consensus to Xi and his assistants or his team of supporters, or the team of people who work for him. They reprimanded Xi for having brought China into such a terrible shape. They warned him with a message that if the political, economic, and social turmoil continues without any effective countermeasures, the party will lose public support, posing a threat to its rule. Well, I think they're too optimistic. The party has already lost party public support, regardless what they do. Now, this is the article. So if you look at it from Xi Jinping's perspective, if anyone who could pose a threat to Xi Jinping, that's the 84-year-old Zheng Qinghong. If there's anyone who's capable of masterminding a coup or even an assassination, it's the same guy. I made many videos on Xi Jinping's political struggles with the Jiang faction, and I won't repeat them here. By the way, the Jiang faction has been rumored to have staged a few coup d'etat and assassination attempts against both Hu Jintao and Xi Jinping, and you can check out my previous videos on that. And so the Nikkei Asia's report said this. I'll just read you what it says. It says, now 84, Zheng remains influential within the party and enjoys a wide network of personal connections. Some say that in the wake of Jiang Zemin's death, Zheng has a bigger role to play. These words expressed by Nikkei Asia only gently touched on the subject, but the impact, the hidden meaning behind it has a tremendous impact on Xi Jinping. Anyone who's familiar with the CCP politics can understand the weight. I mean, these words are very gentle and polite, but but the political implication is very strong. Xi Jinping doesn't want to go to G20, and he doesn't want to go there and then disappears like he did in South Africa due to his security concerns. It would be even more embarrassing for him at the G20 if that were to happen. So he doesn't want to go. Now, there's another political instability factor. The rumor that Hu Jintao was dying or is dying seemed to be confirmed. Here it is. Here's the post. A Chinese political analyst, Deng Liwen, who is a very well respected, he's a former journalist in China, and he's well respected in the United States. He said on his X account that two mainstream American media outlets have contacted him to interview him about Hu Jintao, and these two media outlets are working on editorials in anticipation of Hu Jintao's passing. So he said in his posts that it looks like the rumor that Hu Jintao is on his deathbed is real. Now, Xi Jinping understands the significant impact that Hu Jintao's death could have on his power, because his opponent would do everything they can to take advantage of the public sympathy people have to Hu Jintao and use that against Xi. So that's another reason that Xi Jinping doesn't want to leave Beijing. Let me come back. The Japanese media report said that after being reprimanded, Xi Jinping expressed his frustration to his closest aides, pointing fingers at his three predecessors, as Deng Xiaoping, Jiang Zemin, and Hu Jintao. He felt frustrated because he felt he has been spending 10 years to solve the problems they had left behind. And now he felt it was unfair that he became the one to be blamed. He also told his aides that it was now their jobs to resolve these leftover problems. The venting left his aides shaken, according to Nikkei Asia, especially Premier Li Qiang. China's premier's relations with Xi Jinping has been the subject of many speculations recently, and it has to do with the severe casualties the PLA suffered during the flooding in Hebei province in late July and early August. And this is according to various reports. So obviously, there were three sources that talked about the casualties, the severe casualties the PLA suffered during that flood, or that, I shouldn't say flood, that man-made disaster when dams, a series of dams were ordered to release water, to discharge water in an effort to save Xiong'an, the new capital. So let me come back to, so this is the first one. Maybe I'll make this bigger so those of you who can read Chinese can appreciate the Chinese text. So also former Chinese journalist Zhao Jianlan posted on X that one of his friends, who was a journalist and a famous writer in China, has confirmed that the PLA troops based in Baoding, Hebei, was submerged by the flood, and the casualties were high. The exact number of casualties cannot be revealed, but the news that an entire troop was engulfed by water was no longer a secret among the military, government, and media circles in Beijing. And this is the reason why the military was not involved or deployed in the rescue effort in the Great Flood of Hebei. Epoch Times also obtained information from China, and their source revealed that a tank brigade belonging to the garrison of Beijing, stationed in Zuozhou, is flooded, and their tanks are all ruined. There was also an aviation brigade in Zuozhou that happened to be in the worst hit area because their altitude, their sea elevation was really low. So it was the worst hit flood area, and their airplanes were all ruined. And also the 80 between, and there's another source. So between the Epoch Times and Zhao Jianlan, and then another source, I just compiled a list of damages that the PLA suffered. And there's the 82nd Group Army's strategic ammunition depots and their logistic food warehouses based in Zhuozhou are affected or flooded or ruined, as well as a naval equipment warehouse that were also flooded. In addition, the academic buildings of the 6th Air Force Academy in Zhuozhou were flooded, with computers and flight simulators all damaged. And these flight simulators are said to be quite expensive. A newly formed PLA drone units numbered Air 93550, that's their military number, was also wiped out. Yeah, so you know, Baoding, Hebei is not far from Beijing and is an area that houses the troops protecting the capital city. Some of the PLA's elite troops are stationed there. So Xi Jinping is said to be very, very upset about the losses the PLA suffered during the flood. And the person who gave the order to flood Zhuozhou, according to some social media posts like the one here, was given by the premier Li Qiang, because they say that at the time they sent the request, the information, they sent the request for approval to Xi Jinping, but he didn't respond. So in the interest of time, and Li just made the decision to open the floodgate and flood the areas, right, the few cities in Hebei, to protect Xiong'an. Obviously, then, I mean, when you open the floodgates, the water doesn't know, well, where the PLA is. So, and nobody, and because Li Qiang has had no experience in the central government, he was promoted from Shanghai. So he has no central government experience. So he probably doesn't know to notify the military or notify other departments. So the water ruthlessly gushed down and leaving the PLA with no time to escape, just like everyone else. So there has been rumors that Li Qiang, after Xi Jinping got very upset, Li Qiang asked to resign. I tend not to believe that, because resignation isn't a practice commonly accepted in a communist system, because your resignation, unlike politicians in the West, you could resign. A resignation basically brings shame or insult to your boss. Basically, you're basically saying he hired the wrong person, right? And then it's also a way to admit that the both of you together, you made a mistake. So you don't see resignations in CCP. So I don't believe that he resigned. And but anyways, that's just the story. I think my personal view is, I think the damage, the losses the PLA suffered is real, because we have three sources that all talk about the same problem, and they all gave very detailed information. Now, I'm not so sure if Li Qiang actually resigned. I mean, he probably was very apologetic to Xi Jinping, but what can he do, right? I mean, they have to stick with each other to sort out this mess. So that's one type of losses the PLA suffered. Another one has to do with the nuclear submarine. In August 21, let me come back. On August 21, the day Xi Jinping left for South Africa for the BRICS summit, rumors started to circulate online about a Chinese nuclear submarine having tanked near the Taiwan Strait, and all 55 people on board died. And I made a program talking about that the week before I went on vacation. And the Taiwanese Defense Ministry was the first that came to deny it. The spokesperson said they didn't have anything that can validate the rumor. Mainland Chinese media remained quiet until August the 24th. 3 days later, Hengpai News from Shanghai dispelled the rumor by quoting, very strangely, Taiwanese Defense Ministry. Well, when you think about it, shouldn't the mainland Chinese media quote the PLA and its own defense ministry to deny anything, right? But they didn't. They quote Taiwanese, and that's very odd. And China's defense ministry remained quiet for 10 days until August 31st to dispel rumors, denying that the nuclear submarine had been involved in an accident in the Taiwan Strait. But interestingly, it did not say a word about whether the incident had taken place in other waters. It just said that it didn't have an accident in the Taiwan Strait, right? So leaving room for more speculations. This made some China observers suspicious. And this suspicion is even more confirmed yesterday when the CCP's military website and military newspaper published an editorial titled "Tighten the Safety Valves More Firmly." It's a literal translation. I think the meaning is, tighten your safety measures more seriously or more vigorously. And the article begins by stating that many troops are organizing field training and live bombing exercises and need to tighten the safety valves to strengthen security. And the second paragraph pointed out that it says, I'm just reading the quote, it says, once an accident occurs, it will affect the normal operations of the troops and their morale. Security and stability work isn't all of PLA. Security and stability work isn't all of the PLA's work, but they affect all of the PLA, or it affects all of the PLA. It's not the center of attention, but affects the center of attention. So the delayed response, the very vague denial, and now this editorial making a warning about, warning the PLA about accidents, made some China observers believe that the incident rumor is more than likely true. If you think about it, none of the US, South Korea, Japan, Australia said anything. And Taiwan denied it, right? I think these countries chose to remain silent to prevent any provocation. Maybe they tried to save the PLA's face, because it's very disgraceful, right? When your elite, when one of your most advanced, one of your newest nuclear powered submarines had such an embarrassing accidents, I think these countries try not to say anything, and Taiwan denied it based on the fact that it did not happen near Taiwan or in the Taiwan Strait. But the successive tragedies the PLA suffered, without a doubt, struck serious blows to Xi Jinping's leadership and added ammunitions to those who oppose him, and maybe has fired up the anti-war sentiment within the PLA. And all of these carry grave political consequences. I think Xi Jinping cannot afford to leave China. Historically, two CCP leaders lost power to their political opponents immediately after their international trips. And they are Hua Guofeng and Zhao Ziyang, who both lost power when they returned from a trip to North Korea. And North Korea was close. So, and also former Soviet leaders Khrushchev and Gorbachev also lost power after returning from vacations. So Xi Jinping is not taking any risk going further away. So that's why he's not going to India. This brings us a question. Will Xi Jinping come to San Francisco to attend the APEC summit to meet with Joe Biden? Because Joe Biden expressed his disappointment in Xi Jinping's absence at G20, right? And assuming the question is if Joe Biden gives him an elaborate welcome to the White House, as the Chinese always requested, like I said earlier in the beginning of this program. So if Joe Biden gives him, all of that, the ceremonial welcome, would Xi Jinping come? I doubt it. China's State Security Department issued an editorial on its WeChat account on Sino-US relations. It criticized the Biden administration's two-handed approach to Sino-US strategies. Basically, it's saying that on one hand, the Biden administration is saying that we're not interested in decoupling with China. On the other hand, it has increased arms sale to Taiwan. So it's criticizing, the Americans for its two-handed approach. And then at the end, it said, in order to truly realize dialogue from Bali to San Francisco, the United States needs to display sufficient sincerity. Now, Bali was where the G20 was held last year, and San Francisco would be this G20. So it says, to truly realize a dialogue from Bali to San Francisco, the Americans need to display sufficient sincerity. But China observers also say, well, why China's State Security Department Ministry of State Security is involved? The entire editorial criticizes U.S. foreign policies involving China. Shouldn't the foreign ministry issue a statement? Why a spy agency is doing this? When it's foreign ministry should be doing something. It seems very odd, but I think Xi Jinping wants to probably send a message to the Americans. I think he knows that he probably won't go to San Francisco for APEC, given the situations that he has to deal with at home. But since he's going, or the chances for him to go is not very high, he may as well use the opportunity to bargain with the United States. He has nothing to lose, as he's not planning to go anyways, right? So again, going back to the question, is Xi Jinping going to go to APEC? My answer is not likely. And there's another person who has given the answer to that question away. And I think it's Xi Jinping's daughter. That brings us to the very interesting question about her role in China's politics. So in the past, since this Monday, that was yesterday, there have been so many discussions about Xi Jinping's Twitter account or X account and his daughter's X account in the United States. Let me share with you the pictures. Here's the picture of the article from the state security accusing Americans' two-handed approach. I'll provide the links after this live stream, but here's the article on Global Times. Here's Xi Jinping's, I kept saying Twitter account, sorry, X account. And let me make this So here you go. This account actually, he joined in 2018. It's in English. It's called She's Moments, but it wasn't really active until recently. And now, as of I think a few hours before, as of the time I was doing the screenshots, he has what 84,000 followers. That's within a matter of a couple of days. That's pretty fast. And this account, if you look at it, unlike other heads of state or government accounts like Joe Biden's account, or Tsai Ing-wen, Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen's account, or even um, Ukrainian President Zelensky's account, their icon has the color gray. It's a gray check mark, right, indicating it's a government account or heads government affiliated account or heads of state account. But Xi Jinping's Xi's moment is blue, so that looks like a private account. So that's first of all very interesting. And I didn't bother to. I mean, if you read it, it's in English. You guys can read it. It's just all cookie cutter CCP um, propaganda, in English. But why do we think it's his account? Here's the Chinese press from Hubei that gave it away. So this obviously, Xi's Moments retweeted a video of that was made by Hubei's government, local government, and and so that's where the red circle is. Xi's Moment retweeted this original video produced by Hubei local government, and so this local government got it very excited, and so it says recently Secretary General Xi Jinping's overseas Twitter account tweeted. It's still using Twitter. It's not. It hasn't changed to X yet. Tweeted Hubei's original video. I just omitted the name. It's too long. It's irrelevant here. And linked our Twitter account, Open Hubei. So this gave it away. And this post was later removed. I heard it was removed later because it's giving away too much information. I haven't verified if it's indeed removed, but I heard it's removed. So yeah, so he has this English X account, and the account was established in 2018, but it wasn't active until a couple of days ago, and it's being acknowledged here that it's his official account. Now, the person who's rumored to say is running this account is his daughter, okay, and then today his daughter's account became news again. So here, let's talk about his daughter. His daughter's account's name is called My Moment. So you see, Xi Jinping's account is called Xi's Moments, and it's operated by his daughter. And this one is My Moment, and this one is in Chinese. So today, this picture was posted. A China observer told me that this picture made him convinced that this is Xi Jinping's daughter, and I asked him why. And he said, look at this picture. This is obviously a selfie, right? Taken by either Xi Jinping or the woman, the young woman next to him. And look at the smile on Xi Jinping's face. You don't see this kind of smile in any of his pictures from Xinhua or any CCTV. And this is a genuine smile from a father or somebody who's obviously very fond of the young lady next to him. And look at the young woman who kind of tilted her head, against Xi Jinping's shoulder. I mean, it's got to be someone who's very, very close to him. So he's convinced that this is his daughter's account. And this account has been rumored to be Xi Jinping's daughter's account for a while. But there are also other people who denied it, who said that it's not. So I wasn't convinced that this picture was I said to my China expert friend, I said, no, I'm not convinced. It could be anyone. It could be his niece or another young woman from his family, who just he wanted to take a selfie with him. It doesn't have to be his daughter. It could be anyone in his family. why do you say this is his daughter? And so I started looking at the posts this woman has been posting, and so and this one she posted on September 3rd, after Joe Biden made the comment that he was disappointed with Xi Jinping not going to G20, and this is what this young woman said. She said, there will be more and more things to disappoint President Biden. The old president should take the time to get used to it. So this is why I said I don't think Xi Jinping is going to the APEC summit, because judging from if this is his daughter saying this, it looks like he is not going to APEC, right? So I'm like, this is interesting. And then I started looking at what she's been posting. Here you have a picture of Xi Jinping on the left. That one is obvious. We have not seen this picture. It's obviously a personal picture. Judging from the quality of this picture, where it was taken, it's a very personal picture, right? And she posted that. And then on the right, she posted a short video where Xi Jinping, raised his arms with the other BRICS leaders in South Africa. And then the caption says, Secretary Xi Jinping is so adorable. Adorable is the wrong word. It's just so cute. Right? And then many emojis, with kisses and what? Hearts. And you think, well, who would call Xi Jinping cute and adorable? Right? Think about it. Even I don't think his niece would dare to make that kind of comment. So that got me thinking. And then this one is very interesting. This is a few days ago. Oh, actually a few weeks ago on August 18th. And she said, I twisted my left wrist. It's painful. I'm going to turn off the light and go rest. And that's on the right. And she posted a short video. It's dark. It looks like her home. And people say it's Zhongnanhai, right? I mean, that kind of a courtyard has to be like Zhongnanhai equivalent kind of a royal palace type of a residence in Beijing. And then she posted another one. She said, my left hand is useless now. I'm gonna heal it, and hopefully when I wake up tomorrow, it will get better. And so on the left, she showed this picture of this pillow, and then this chair. It has, so these to me shows there are not some kind of inexpensive furniture or a cushion, a random cushion. They're very expensive. They look like there's something coming from the royal palace. So it's not like an ordinary person or super wealthy Chinese could have this kind of a furniture and cushions at home. And Xi Jinping's birthday, and on the one on the left says, today received many birthday wishes. Thank you all. And there's no subject. Hey, who are you? Are you speaking on Xi Jinping's behalf? It's not like, it's almost sound like I or we, and there's no subject. Just received many birthday wishes. Thank you. It has to be someone in his family. And on the right, it says, wishing a happy 70th birthday, Secretary General Xi Jinping. Again, and all the emojis, and then it shows the table of flowers, right? And so to me, it has to be someone from his family who posted this. And this is where the young lady travels. Look at the car. The video on the right shows, it's a video, it's not a picture. It actually was taken from, she is riding in this car alone in the back seat. It shows the car with the flags in the front, the China flag and then the CCP flag in the front, leaving a compound with a group of soldiers standing straight next to the car. And then the one on the left shows, I think, the same car, because you see the same flags in the front, riding at night. So that gives it away. Who could be riding in this kind of a car coming out of a compound with a group of military soldiers standing right next to it, right? But I think the thing that really gave it away, the ultimate post that convinced me this is Xi Jinping's daughter's account, is this post. It says, fashion tips. The tie is the highlight of a man's suit. This tie is serious and yet also young looking. I should say young looking, and has a happy face. Now, it's widely known that Xi Jinping's daughter is the fashion advisor to his parents. So Xi Jinping and his wife receive fashion tips and advices from their daughter, and that's a common knowledge. So this post seriously gives it away. And I don't think anyone, his niece or anyone, would be audacious enough to write something to comment on Xi Jinping's tie, to comment on Xi Jinping's tie and calling it serious and I shouldn't say young. It should be 活泼 is what? Lively, bubbly, vivacious. This tie is serious and vivacious. I mean, no one dares to comment on their party leader's tie, the outfit. Only the daughter can. So I think, so then, that's when after this, I think I agree with my expert friend that this is Xi Jinping's daughter's account, or at least she's behind this. And interestingly, I also saw this note about, she made a comment about Joe Biden falling. This was what, June 1st this year. And it says, Biden fell again at the commencement of the American Air Force Academy. A weak and declining United States, ... All right. Now, that rat, I'm going to make this disappear. So I think Xi Jinping is very protective of his daughter. I mean, the public has never seen a picture of hers. There have been some pictures, but no one can confirm they were indeed her pictures. So the extent, the trouble Xi Jinping goes through to protect the privacy of his daughter, and yet all of a sudden they're both very active on social media, or at least I think the daughter is now openly kind of making hints that she is the daughter, is telling me that he probably has to use every help he could find, to muster his political strength, right? And so that that probably explains the predicament he is in, and things don't look too good for him. So I think this is very interesting that all of a sudden he is active on X. His daughter is running the social media for him in English, and she is also actively dropping hints here and there about who she is. And if you read the comments, Xi Jinping's English account, the comments function has been disabled, so no one can leave any comments. Because I think in the first few hours, the comments were allowed, and people just left too many negative comments, and so they disabled the function. But the daughter's comment function is there, so she has, many people, call her princess. So many people would just say, yes, princess, this and that. So they generally assume that she is the daughter. All right, so with all of that, it explains why Xi Jinping is not going to India to attend G20, and I highly doubt, or I should say, the chances for him to come to San Francisco to meet Joe Biden is not very high. All right, now before I answer any questions, I want to, let's see, people can ask me questions, and thank you, Sumiland, and for organizing, for helping with the comments. Yes, people, if you have questions, for me put my name in the front. I have two. I just want to say something before I actually answer the questions. I have two moderators to help me moderate the questions. And I want to make it known that my rule is I welcome all kinds of comments. I'm very open to criticisms. Uh, I don't even ban Wu Mao who attack me, as long as they're not disruptive. I would allow my moderators um, to to stop people when they are disruptive. But we should open to all comments, uh, to different views, different political views. We should even welcome the Wu Mao, the little pinks, who come here, as long as they express their views logically and they're as long as they're not destructive, because I think this discussion could help them. All right, so that's that. Let me see if people have questions for me. I'll go through the super chats first, the super questions. Let's see. I'll go through them really fast. Oh, here we have Mark Schwartzberg. As always, thank you for your insights. Thank you, Mark. All right, let me see. From Hike Ranger. Thank you, Hike. Thank you. From Nolan Major. Hi, Lei. Did you see the press events in Florida ahead of Hurricane Idalia? Is that how you pronounce it? Idalia. This is in stark contrast to the CCP. Why doesn't the CCP use the PLA to help in flood rescue, recovery, and cleanup? Xi Jinping is afraid to deploy the PLA. Number one, the troops in that region are flooded. Number two, there's so much resentment against him over the rocket forces cleanup, and also the flooding of the troops, the elite troops in the Hebei area. So he just cannot command them to do this work. Yeah. And he's afraid that they're gonna disobey him. Yeah, it's a very sensitive situation because of the losses that I just gave you. One is the flooding, the loss of lives, the loss of PLA soldiers during the flooding. Yeah. And the second is the submarine incident. All right, let's see. Travel with love. Thank you. Thank you. Happy Tuesday. Happy Wednesday. Thank you. All right, let's see. Questions? This is a lot of information. When I was preparing for it, I'm like, okay, this is Lei, you have so much you want to cover. I hope it makes sense to you all. But I found them very interesting. Sir Humphrey, thanks for the live stream, Lei. Looking forward to questions. Great. All right, let's see. From Venkat, Lei, good to see you back. An Indian defense analyst mentioned that a top leader in the PLA stated that they could win wars only with quality weapons. Does this imply that the PLA leader was suggesting poor weapons quality? Well, I think the incident in the nuclear submarine is indicative of the quality issue with their hardware, the PLA's hardware, because someone said that the CCP is known as a copycat, right? They have stolen technologies or military technologies and other technologies from around the world, and they're copycats. But when you just steal and copy technologies and make something, and you don't have a good grasp of the technology to do, because they're maintenance. I mean, there's so many logistical issues, right? Maintenance and other supportive functions. It's not just the development of the weapon. So, and anything in such a, I mean, any sophisticated instrument, if something goes wrong, I mean, it can be a disaster. So people really question how effective CCP's strategy has been in stealing technologies, right? In stealing cutting edge technologies and being a copycat. And then the submarine incident could be the perfect example to illustrate that. There's another incident, like one of their rockets hit like a residential area on the coast in Fujian. I saw that somewhere. So these incidents, I mean, is not giving the PLA officers and soldiers a lot of confidence, you know. So, all right, from BA. Hi, Lei, thank you for your work. I love the orchid. Oh, I have one too. It's the only one I can keep alive. Orchids are lovely, not only because they look good, they're easy to take care. Yes, thank you. I love orchids. Thank you. All right, let me see. Jeff Ramos, Lei, what's the likelihood of Xi's family to have properties, real estate in the US soil? Who is the second moderator? Who's the second moderator? His name is Richie. And I think I just can't keep up with all the posts here. He's somewhere here. All right, he will make himself known. Anyways, so I think the woman, the X account that supposedly is his daughter posted in February 2020 a picture of her from one of the, I think from not one of the most expensive building in New York City, in Manhattan, in the upper west, the West 57th on West 57th Street, around Columbus Circle, overlooking the Central Park. It is the most expensive building. And she posted a picture saying that she is stepping out or something. And that was February 2020, at the beginning of the pandemic. And I also read that that post was later removed. So, well, she was living there. But was it an owned property or rented property? We don't know. Right? Or it could be a friend who was living there and she was there. So I thought that was interesting. February 2020. All right. Michael A. Mayo, thank you for the talk. Fascinating information and analysis. I will have to watch this one twice. Okay. All right, good. You're welcome. All right, let me see. Question from NTN. Lei, hello. PLA submarines do operate in the Yellow Sea, even though it is shallow. Lianyungang and Qingdao both have PLA naval bases where the subs go to. Yes. It sounds like the accident happened in the Yellow Sea. So you're right. So now you're saying that they do operate in the Yellow Sea. Makes sense. So maybe that's where the accident happened. Thank you for making that point. Other questions? Jeffrey Hampton, Lei, the Nikkei Asia article said she voiced angrily his blame for China's problems on past three predecessors. Your opinion? I think I mean, as much as we shouldn't sympathize with Xi Jinping, but what he stated is true. I mean, if you look at it, the real estate problem didn't start with Xi Jinping. I mean, the real estate problem started, during Jiang Zemin's time and worsened during Hu Jintao's time. So by the time Xi Jinping came, it was already out of control. And he was the one who said, a few years ago that real estate is, houses are for people to live in. It's not for you to speculate, as an instrument or something like that. So I think what he said is true, because the problem China now has is not a Xi Jinping problem. It's the failure of China's economic reforms. The so-called Chinese-style socialist market economy did not work, right? Without political reforms, without solid political reforms, without the establishment of rule of laws, without conforming to international standards, without following the WTO rules and regulations, the so-called Chinese market is just is a gambling ground. It benefits a few, those few who have powers. It's not a sustainable market economy. It's like a wild west. I mean, it's even worse than that. So it has been proven that. And then this problem started with Deng Xiaoping. When Deng Xiaoping said, whether it's black cat or white cat, as long as you could catch a mouse, you're a good cat. That statement now we know is wrong, because a black cat means it's a bad cat, right? It's a cat that's guilty of something, and a white cat is a good cat. So he's saying whether you're a good cat or a white cat, I don't care. As long as you can make money, you're good. That thinking is precisely, the reason why Chinese economy is receding dramatically now, because you need to have rule of laws. A white cat is a white cat that follows rules should be rewarded. A black cat that takes advantage of the system, that does not follow laws, should be punished. But the world somehow has blindly accepted or assumed China's economic reforms can't work. It does not work. And we ignored its lack of human rights, slave labors. All these issues were not addressed. And we, to some extent, has allowed it to happen, to develop in China. And it is true. I mean, what Xi Jinping said to some extent is true. When he came, he realized, and also the reason why he has to close down is he realized that if anyone in China who has a little bit money is trying to send their money away to Europe, to Southeast Asia, to the United States, the country is going to collapse. There's no Chinese economy whatsoever. So when he came on board, he realized that's what exactly was happening. Every company that has a little bit of money, or every person, every family that seems to have a little bit of money, is trying to send their money elsewhere. And he said, I've got to stop this, right? So from his perspective, he wouldn't have a country anymore. But those were exactly what was prevalent during Hu Jintao's time and Jiang Zemin's time. And nobody cared. So I think what he said is true. The problem started way before him. The best way to describe it is it's a ticking time bomb that started during Deng Xiaoping's time. It got passed on to Jiang Zemin, to Hu Jintao, and eventually got passed on to Xi Jinping. But at this time, he has no one to pass it on to, and it's about to explode. And because it has to explode now. It cannot go on. It cannot continue anymore. So it's just a time bomb that he inherited, and he felt like he shouldn't be the one to blame. And he said he tried very hard for the past 10 years to solve the problems. The entire system has been corrupt. He had nowhere to go. And also the Jiang Zemin faction has set him up to fail. I read, Xiong'an is Xi Jinping's baby project. He wanted to set up a second capital. But the two people who were put in charge for a site, to select a site, was Wang Huning and one other Politburo Standing Committee member. Both of these two figures belong to the Jiang Zemin faction. So people say, the Jiang Zemin faction, utilized Xi Jinping's wish to have a second capital city and chose Xiong'an for him, and set him up for a big failure, because that city should not be used as a capital city. But he listened to them. So, he chose to believe them, so that's the price he pays. Well, that's my answer to the question. Yeah. All right. From Jairo Herrera. Lei, I admire your analysis and research. The last time I watched what the foreign minister spokeswoman said, Hua Chunying, and Mao Ning, they always give vague answers and deflect them. Yes, they have a mission impossible. Their job is to deflect questions and be vague as possible, right? What can they say? Um, I want to share this information. I wasn't able to get a screenshot. Xi Jinping's daughter, I should say, well, Xi Jinping's daughter's account on Twitter wrote about Qinggang. Oh, I think it was in July. One of her posts in July made a comment about Qinggang's episode, and she tore his mistress apart. She just said, "Such a shameless woman who, who has a who's she called her like shameless in like posting pictures of her illegitimate son on social media. Basically, she just tore her apart. And then about the demotion of Qinggang, she said, um, "What's this big deal about saving face? There's no face to save. When the decision when she didn't say we, there's no subject, but it's almost like when we promoted the wrong person, um, or after we promote someone and later find out that he did terrible things. There's no face to save to remove him, so there's no saving face whatsoever here, and there's no subject. But I'm like, wow, this woman is very daring because she obviously knows what Xi Jinping thinks to make that comment, right? She said those people who say that it's about saving face have very superficial understanding about Chinese politics, something to that effect. So I plan to go through her posts and try to uh, find more interesting perspectives coming from the Xi family. I think it's very interesting, isn't it? But anyways, that's just I thought I just remember that. Anyways, what was the question? Lei, would you consider doing an interview with Elmer Yuan? Yes, I would. I would. Mitsu, why do you think the poor treatment of the Mongolians in the uh, Aymar gets overlooked versus the Tibetans and other minority groups in China? Why do I think the treatment of the Mongolians? By who though? Overlooked by the CCP? You say overlooked by the United States? Um, okay, I got the questions. Why the Mongolians? That's a very good question. They shouldn't be. I think the West chooses the Uyghurs and Tibetan as you're right. If they truly care about China's human rights issues, they should care as much about the Mongolians. Um, they should care about all the other groups, right? You have a very good point. All right. Okay. All right, from Jeff Hampton, thank you. All right, unconventional ideas. Do you think it's possible that the rumors about the PLA disasters might be worse than we realize? It could be. Now that I think about it, I think the fact that US, Japan, South Korea, and Australia did not say a word probably means that it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad that they don't want to say anything to embarrass or provoke the PLA. Moonwalker, if Modi and Xi dislike each other and India and China dislike each other so much, why did India attend the BRICS summit in the first place? Seems like they knew it would be a waste of time. I think India's tradition for its international policy is trying to be neutral. So I think Modi attended the summit just to get along. If he withdraw from the summit, it will be major news. right? That would cause more trauma. That would be more problematic. So I think India's um, policy for international relations is trying to stay out of troubles as much as possible, right? Being neutral. So that's their trademark. So I think he would attend the summit just to be there because all the other leaders are there. But if there's one leader that said, "Oh, I'm not going," I think India may follow suit. But they all went, and there are other members who expressed interest of joining. So I think Modi went, but he did not meet with Xi Jinping at the summit, and I think that's major. All right. From Silas Larson, speculation in housing is the major issue in China. Yes, but wouldn't you agree that a model that largely funds local government through land sales will ultimately be time limited? Yes, that's precisely the problem. The fact that the central government leaving the local government with no reliable source of tax revenue and leaving them on their own to find their own tax revenue caused this very aggressive expansion into real estate. I did a program again a few weeks ago on the percentage, how much real estate, how much money in China's real estate market went to support the local government. I think it was what, 60%? So the fact that the local government relies so much on the real estate sector is set up. I mean, it's set up to fail, right? And we know it's not sustainable. And then these local government is then evaluated by their GDP growth. So basically, the Chinese real estate buyers, Chinese homeowners, have been funding China's GDP growth for nothing because they build all these wasteful infrastructure that are not generating uh, much tax revenue or um, sustainable growth opportunities. So yeah, that's everybody just pay for these aggressive infrastructure projects, these wasteful high-speed rails. All right. All right, let me see. A lot of questions. Okay, Stephen Mitchell, Lei, will poor economics see China closer or further from war? I think closer. Poor economics definitely will bring the CCP closer to war because in a situation when society is getting largely, I mean, it's made up of disgruntled citizens everywhere. I mean, they have to, to ensure stability. I mean, the most convenient way for a dictator is to launch a war and then call the martial law. But on the other hand, with all these technical disasters that the PLA has suffered, how much control Xi Jinping has over the PLA, and that's a question. That's a question. So one question is: do they want to launch a war? Yes. Can they? Probably not. But if he goes crazy, he might. Hike Ranger, your moderator stumped on my original question. What was your original question? Well, I don't have time to talk to my moderator. My moderators, if you are there, unless a person is disruptive and trying to stop us from having a good conversation, we should not hide their questions or remove their posts. If that's what this question means. What do you mean by stomped on your original question? Do you mean remove? All right. Okay, let me move on. Thomas Waldron, India may publish its own map recognizing Taiwan and Tibet. This would remind CCP the consequence of losing its risky gambles. Yeah, that may be the case. Yeah, but does the CCP care of losing this risky gamble? All right. From Landed One, Lei, you have really done a great job informing your audience about current events in China. Thank you. Well, thank you. Thank you. I try. Charles Curtis, how can we pass judgment on China's human rights when we do not give African Americans human rights? I think, well, you brought up two questions. I think you cannot say, oftentimes we get criticism because, oh, you have not done this well, and therefore you cannot criticize me. I think that comment is not very legitimate. People who are not doing very well in one area can criticize. I mean, otherwise, only people who are perfect can criticize others. Well, then in this world, who's perfect? No one is perfect. We all have problems of one sort or another. So, as long as their criticisms are valid, then we should listen to their criticisms. But just say, oh, you have not done well. Just say, oh, because you're poor, you shouldn't tell me how to make money. If the fact that I have more money than you do, therefore I should not listen. Therefore, I should not listen to any financial advices you gave me. I think some people may believe that, but I think that's a very short-sighted view. How I think a person's ability to accept criticisms and ability to accept different views and opinions, the ability to tolerate different opinions, is a sign of strength and wisdom. And I think people have become so narrow-minded that they refuse to listen to different opinions. And I think because of that, we're losing strength. For that reason, I welcome criticisms. I think the Wu Mao, if they're here, we should welcome them because this may be their only chance to get the truth. Because if they're based in China, they're being brainwashed 24/7. The only time they can actually access uncensored information or relatively uncensored information is when they do their job. They can. So I think we shouldn't shut them down. That's why yeah. The only people that I would shut down is when they try to be disruptive, when they purposely try to uh, ruin a good event. All right. I have talked a lot. I think we probably should stop here because it has been a long evening. And I thank you very much for joining. There are a lot of comments. Well, thank you all. And I'll take one last question from David Lopan. If she were to suddenly get ill or pass away, who would be his most likely successor? Or would the CCP become, sorry, that question, a junta like in the government of Myanmar? I think no. I think it would become. It would. It would become. I think the CCP would erupt in war, and then fighting for power. Different factions will fight for power, and then the Chinese public will probably overthrow the regime. In that case, I mean that's just my feeling. All right. Well, thank you very much for joining me. I hope this is helpful. Stay tuned, and I'll be back in a few days. All right. Thank you very much. Bye bye.